welcome back. This is our second session of non-offending caregivers with sexually abused children. My name is Nola, just to remind everyone. So a couple of rules I want to just refresh on and go back over. One being confidentiality. So anything that we talk about in our group tonight will remain between us unless, unless one of you discloses to me that you want to harm yourself or there's someone else that you're wanting to harm. I'll have to report that. And then if you have knowledge or prior knowledge to any child or children being physically or sexually abused, or an elderly person being physically, sexually abused, maltreated, neglected, I will have to report that as well. And just know that that is beneficial to them. It's not anything that we want to get people in trouble for, okay? So, another rule that I want to remind is attendance. We want to make sure that we continue coming to these support groups. They are for you. They're to help you and your family cope with what's going on in your lives. So we want to make sure that we are attending all of our sessions. Another one that we have is privacy. Anything that I ask you to do or ask you to perform in, it's completely voluntary. If we do an activity that you don't feel comfortable in doing tonight or any other group session that we have, you don't have to participate. Any question that I ask you that you don't feel comfortable answering right now, that's okay. My job is to sit and listen to you and try to help facilitate as much as I can. And that's what my job is to do, is to be your facilitator for our group sessions. Another one is drugs and alcohol. I'm going to ask you to refrain from drinking or doing any kind of drugs while we're doing our group sessions. It keeps you focused, and when you're drinking alcohol or taking drugs, it could mess with your emotional state, so we want to make sure that we're all staying focused during our group sessions, okay? Our last rule that I want to brief on is singling people out. What we're talking about in these group sessions are things that are traumatic that's happened to our children. So we don't want to single somebody out or judge somebody for something that's happened to their child or even happened to you as an adult, okay? Alright, does everybody understand those or have any questions? Okay. So, the last session that we did, we assigned an activity that we were all okay with, was doing body art. And this was getting some long paper and letting our child lay on it as we outline their body. So, does anybody want to start with how that went?
I'll start.
Okay.
So my kid, we put him down there, and then we drew an outline of him and everything, and so he he just pretty much drew the face. Of course, like when we was doing the outline, he already had the fingers and everything, so he didn't really draw much to it, And then of course, he likes red, so we did a red shirt and blue jeans, that kind of thing. So. Okay.
When you were drawing the body parts and stuff, how did that go over?
As far as that, as far as body parts, he didn't really draw anything on any of the private parts or anything like that. So.
Okay. Alright. Did y'all talk to him about that and see, what he was feeling or why he didn't draw those body parts?
Not so much, just because we colored in pants and then the shirt and stuff like that. So everything would have been covered up on him anyway. So I didn't really talk to him or anything about that.
Okay, and that will come talking to them about that it is okay to draw those body parts. Even though, we kind of instill in our children when they're young, we don't really talk about stuff like that. But in this group, you're here for, the same reason. Something has happened to your child. And so it is okay to talk to him about those body parts and about what has happened. Because it is okay. And he needs to see that from mom and dad, or mom, or just dad, that something did happen to me, and it is okay. Mom and Dad say, we're going to get through this. Now, when we back up, because that was kind of badly worded, what happened was not okay. But he needs to see through Mom and Dad that things are going to be okay, and that we will get through this together as a family. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that was a badly worded phrase on my part. So, did he say anything while y'all were drawing the picture or anything?
I mean, other than, he was like, I wanna draw, a red shirt and stuff like that, just because his favorite color is red. But as far as that, like, it's hard for me to talk to him about, what happened and stuff, because I don't want to, bring that back up in his mind and everything. Like, it's something that I feel like, I wouldn't really want to talk about it if it happened, which it didn't happen to me, but I just feel like, I don't want that coming up in my head again. So that and it's hard for me to just openly, like, hey, let's talk about this and stuff, so.
Right. And when you say that, that brings up a really good time for me to say that's called re-victimization. So when we bring things up again, it could be re-victimizing him. But when we're just generally talking to them about what happened and letting them know that you're there for them and that you're going to support what's happened to them and that you believe them, that what's happened really did happen. Because we do see that a lot in parents. They have a hard time believing that this did happen to their child, and they have a hard time being that supportive role for their child. So it is okay to talk to him about those things. And as a dad, it is hard to see your child go through something like this. But when he has questions about it and you don't know the answer, all you can say is, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find an answer for you. And that's, when you could call your local child advocacy center, or there's some other organizations like youth villages. CASA might be able to help a little bit. They're more on the court side of it, but they could direct you in an organization that could help you out with answering some of those questions. But just know it is okay to talk to them about it. And sometimes they need to talk about it. They need to know that you're okay with talking about it. So, does anybody have anything that they want to add to that?
Well, how do you talk to them about it, or how do you try to get them to open up about it? Because when we did, the drawing, she was gonna draw the private parts, but then she just drew pants over it. And when I tried to ask her or talk to her about it, she didn't want to talk about it.
Okay, good question. When children go through something like this, she started to draw it, but then it got back in her head again, and she didn't want to think about it. Just like he was saying, I don't want him to think about it. I don't want to think about it. Some children are not to that point where they're ready to talk about it, and where they're ready to think about it. So she tried to, but then was not okay with it anymore. So that's when you as a father would say, I saw you try to draw the penis, or what does your child use for the male genitalia? Penis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you could say as a father, I saw you try to draw that. Is there something you want to talk about? Or is there anything that you're worried about? And that just leads her into saying, well, yeah, or maybe not. Maybe she may say no, no. And that's just, your way of understanding, okay, she's not ready to talk about it. We'll try again later in a different activity. Like I said, some children are very verbal about it. They want to talk about it all the time. But being her father and being that supportive role, you can say, I saw you try to draw that. Can you tell me why you didn't finish it? And she may say no, because can you tell me is a yes or no question. So we leave them the option to say no, or we leave them the option to say yes. So another way you could word that would be, so tell me why you didn't finish drawing the penis. And that might, lead her into saying, well, or not really lead her into saying, but giving her the opportunity to tell you why, Daddy, I didn't want to draw it. You know, it scares me when I draw stuff like that. And so as a father, you know, you just want to sit down with her and say, you know, it is okay to talk about these things. And I want you to know that I'm here for you, and we're going to get through this together. So does that kind of help answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions right now? Okay. So going back, when you said she tried to draw it and didn't draw it, tell me about the rest of the drawing. How did you start out?
We just, traced her, and then drew the face, the fingers, clothes, and then after that it was just pretty much like a, quiet drawing after I saw that and tried to ask her about it, and it just, just quiet from then on out.
Okay, so it was quiet, so she was kind of shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Did she finish drawing the picture after this happened?
Shortly after that, she didn't want to draw it anymore.
Okay. We see this a lot. Children get it back in their heads and they're like, okay, you're wanting to talk about it again, I'm not ready. That's normal. That's okay. And did y'all try to pressure her into drawing the rest of it, or did you just kind of leave it alone?
Yeah, we didn't try to pressure her. I mean, it was,
Good.
if it was her
Good.
decision to stop drawing, we just
Good.
left it.
That's really great. I commend you on that. We have a lot of, many parents, try to pressure their child into talking about it, or try to pressure their child into doing that activity again, and we don't want to do that. We want them to know that it is okay not to talk about these things, and that is something, you can tell them, if you feel uncomfortable talking to me about these, it's okay, we can come back and talk about them another day. So that is great that you didn't pressure her into talking about those things. That's really good. So while she was drawing the face and stuff, did she have any problems with drawing face or anything like that? That's great. That's good. Okay. So we're to you now.
Okay.
Is it okay if we talk about it?
Sure. I mean, it was going good, She's young, so I just thought that, she might not know. I mean, she's not young, so she might not know to draw the parts. But, we traced her and everything, and she made the slit, for the vagina, and, she drew what she calls boobies,
Yeah.
and at that point, for me, I didn't know whether that was a good thing or if that was a bad thing, because, I mean, why would I want her to know, to draw those things? So, she just drew clothes over it, and, I asked her if she want to talk about, any of those parts, and she really didn't. And I don't know at that point that I did either.
And that's normal. Once you know that's normal, that's okay. So could you sense her feelings, or what was her demeanor when she was drawing the picture?
Well, I mean, she likes to draw, so I guess it was, she likes to color and things like that. So that was good. But I thought she was semi-calm about it, drawing it. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because I don't want her to be willy-nilly with that kind of thing. I don't want her to be willy-nilly with those parts.
Right. And that brings up what I was going to talk to you about tonight. We're going to talk about a couple different activities. We want to take these drawings and keep them around for our children. We want to talk about the parts under the clothing. These parts are not okay for people to touch. And we want them to understand that it's not okay for people to touch our chest. It's not okay for people to touch our private area in the front or in the back. And these drawings can help you, as caregivers, describe this to your child. Do you remember when we drew this picture and it didn't have any clothes on it? That's like us. The parts that our clothes cover, they're not okay for people to touch. And you can take that and turn that into a teaching point for you and your child. You can tell them, if you ever get touches on these parts, I want you to come tell mommy. I want you to come tell daddy. I will take care of that. I'll take care of you. I want you to always tell me the truth about stuff like that. So we want to keep these drawings around. They're gonna come back into play in not the next session, but the session after that. So keep those around, because we're going to talk about those in the following sessions. So now, going still on the drawings, how did you feel about the drawing as a caregiver?
Well, a lot of times in general, I feel guilty. I feel like I didn't watch her enough. I wasn't alarming enough with the people that she was around, even if they were people close to me. I didn't do everything that I could. But I have always told her that no one, just like you said, no one needs to touch her there. I don't even need to see it unless there's a problem. That those areas are for her, and they're, for her only, especially right now. So I felt ashamed and guilty, and I just never want her to feel like I'm one of those people who's not going to believe her when she says things, when she tells me things. And I don't want her to see the disappointment that I feel for myself on my face when doing, when drawing her. But mostly because I don't want her to feel bad and then her feel like she can't come to me.
Okay. So when you found out about your child being sexually abused, did she tell you, or did you find out through another means?
She told me.
Okay. And did she tell you how long it had been since it had happened when she told you?
Yeah.
Okay. We see this often when children don't tell their caregivers that something like that's happening to them. They could be going through what we call the grooming process, where this offender, or some people call them perpetrators, they are grooming the child. They're buying the child gifts. They're giving them extra special attention. A lot of attention, actually. They're giving them a lot of attention. Sometimes they even, at their house, will set up rooms for them, filled with lots of toys, lots of cool things. So when the child sees this and they're going through these motions, they don't really understand that it's wrong, because they're getting all this great stuff. So they don't really know, hey, I think maybe I should tell on this man or this woman, because they're doing things to me, but they're also giving me gifts. So we do see that. So that is, one reason why, she didn't come right away, maybe, and say something to you. But those feelings that you're feeling, those are normal. Those are regular behaviors for caregivers. And what we're going to talk about in group session is that those are normal behaviors. And when we have emotions like that, we don't want to just run away and leave our child in the room, but, we kind of want to keep ourselves together, because we're supposed to be that child's rock. We're supposed to be that supportive parent or caregiver for that child. Did anybody else have any emotions or demeanor changes for yourself when y'all were drawing a picture with your child?
The one thing I can think of is just I was kind of wondering, if he would draw something or just, leave it blank like he did. So I knew like if he drew something, like I feel like I would have to talk to him about
Right.
it. But
Okay.
it was kind of one of those things that was like, I may not should think like this, but it was like a sigh of relief, like when I saw that he didn't, attempt to or
Right.
anything like that. So
Okay.
it's like, okay, good. It's like I don't have to talk to him about it, kind of thing.
Right.
Even though I should, but.
Okay. So I have some pamphlets that we want to talk about tonight. Now that we're getting, into our group session, we want to talk about behaviors that your child could be going through, or that they might be experiencing now, like I just said, or they could experience later on as we go through this process, okay? So if you want to take one and just pass the rest of them around. You can look through these brochures. They have lots of signs and symptoms of abuse, and they have lots of behaviors that you could be seeing in your child. To go over some of these, is anybody witnessing any over-sexualized behaviors? Or, and that could be humping a baby doll, touching animals, or any kind of, other sexual behaviors in your home since this has happened?
I am.
Okay, alright.
Well, she's told me, sometimes that she'll tap herself down there and, it feels funny and
Okay.
things like that. And, I think that she's doing it a lot, and I've heard that, that's okay, but just after this, I'm just wondering if that,
How old is your child?
she's 8.
She's 8, okay. So what you want to do with that is you want to set her down and tell her that it's not okay. We don't need to be touching ourselves down there. What happened to her is not okay. And is she currently in counseling?
Yes.
Okay, good. And what we want to look for in counseling is trauma focused. So if you want to see me after our group session, we'll talk about that together and see if she's in that type of counseling, because we want to make sure that we get her that type of counseling for her. So those behaviors that you are seeing, those are normal. Those are behaviors that we want to be looking for. We want to look for stuff like that so we can make sure they get the services and the services you need in your home. So you'll see a few over there. They could be clingy. They could lash out at you, very aggressive at times, and those are all normal. But we want to make sure that we're seeing those and we're correcting them. And you don't have. I'm not saying punish them for these. You want to just set them down and just, calmly talk to them about, what's going on, and it's okay, and that y'all are going to be there for them as supportive parents and caregivers, alright? So, before we finish and wrap it up, I wanted to talk to you about our activity that we're going to do starting tonight or tomorrow with your family. So, when we have children who went through abuse like this, we want to make sure that we're getting that communication back in the home, and we want to make sure we're getting that hands-on attention and hands-on interaction with our kids. So just help me out. What are some ways that we can set goals for our households that we can instill that communication back in, and we can instill that safety, that the child feels safe being home or safe being where maybe the abuse happened? So what are some ideas that y'all might have?
My son really likes Disney movies and things like that, so,
Okay.
pretty much cartoons all together, so, but, maybe we could set up something as far as like, have the whole family together to watch a movie or something like that, to kind of, have the family bond a little more, and, maybe make it a little more, since if we're bonding more, we have more of an idea that we can talk to each other about different things and stuff. Maybe that would help open up some opportunities for different things.
Great.
So.
And that, like you said, he really don't want to talk about it. So maybe, when you're instilling this movie night with your family, you're going to talk about different things, and maybe, he'll feel more comfortable discussing things with you. We'll talk about that at the next session, how communication has went in your home since we've instilled this activity. So what are some others that y'all might can work in your family?
We'll probably do like a family night every week where everyone votes in on what they want to do on that family night, and everyone just go and do it.
Great idea. That's a great idea. And being with your family unit, your child feels safe. Your child is seeing that, hey, mom and dad are around a lot. I'm really enjoying this. And, like communication, like he was saying, you know, that will open up a lot of doors for you to have talks with your child. And so we'll discuss how your activity went when we come back. So, okay, do you have an idea of what your family might be able to do?
I was thinking maybe go places like, you know, an aquarium or like go see a movie together or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe first go see a movie just so I can transition into, you know, starting to talk about it, and then we'll move into the side.
And all these goals are reachable and they're very attainable. And just keep in mind that you're doing this for the child and to instill that behavior of feeling loved by the caregiver back again. Not that you didn't love him before, but that extra hand of support that you're there for your child. Okay? Does anybody have any questions before we close tonight? Alright, so I want to thank y'all for coming in and talking, and I can't wait to see what the activities show in our next session. Alright? So y'all have a great night. Thank you.